Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited today to be joined by Dana, who got herself a new client within a week of joining the Alpha Lead Academy. Dana, great to have you.
Thanks very much, Michael.
Awesome. So Dana, can you tell us first, what do you do? Who do you help to do what? What's your line and why do you do it?
Sure. So I am a content marketer and strategist. I help small businesses to identify and clarify their unique selling proposition, to figure out where they need to be marketing themselves, and then I help them create content to express that USP to their customers.
Okay. And how did you get started in this line of work?
Well, my background was in journalism. I was a journalist for 10 years and left it to have more control over my schedule. So like a lot of journalists, I went into marketing. I've done corporate marketing for a while and just kind of wanted to scratch that itch of creating content and telling stories and learning about people. So I sort of on the side moved into this business of my own. I know a lot of small business owners, and I could see that a lot of them don't know how to market themselves. They are really passionate about what they do, but marketing is not a part of that. So they really don't know how to express that and bring people to them. So I decided to use my skills to help bridge that gap.
Awesome, great. Yeah, and I mean, when we spoke early on, I was really impressed with this idea that I thought it was really useful for people to realize that by kind of discovering their unique USP, half of their marketing work would already be done, right? Because they just really create this fit between what they offer and what the market wants, right? And you, in your journalism, with your journalism background, you're really good at kind of digging until you find the right answer, right? So that probably applies to your business as well.
Right, absolutely.
Right. Okay, cool. So tell us, before we met, what did you do in terms of getting new clients? Where did your clients come from?
It was almost all referral, either people that I have worked with in the past or people that were referred to me by people I'd worked with in the past. There was very little cold outreach for me.
Okay. And how did that work for you?
It was working okay. I kept busy, but again, this business started as sort of a sideline gig. So it was enough to keep me busy part-time, but to grow this side hustle into my main line of work and to grow it to a full-time business, there's just no way I was going to build enough of a client base strictly through referrals to do this full-time.
Okay. So how were your first few weeks of working with me and being in the Alpha Lead Academy?
They were great. It's actually funny, given my line of work, that the same thing that I do for other people, I had a really hard time doing for myself. You're too close, right? So close that I was kind of myopic. So talking with you, within that first week, those first couple of calls that you and I had, I achieved so much clarity on exactly what my own unique selling proposition is and on exactly who my customers are. I was thinking much broader to where it's almost overwhelming when you think too broad. And so you really helped me narrow down and target within that first week, really, who do I really need to be talking to and what do I really need to be telling them? So that by itself, just that clarity of purpose and that focus was really fantastic.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I think it's really important that the narrowing down is not a very final decision, right? It's a working hypothesis. And with that, you then go out into the market and see if, people resonate with it. And if not, then you change. But fortunately, in your case, it did work. But before we get there, so we started with the positioning and with kind of really finding the clarity in what we want to do. And then what was next?
Then what was next was how to have conversations. Before I was a journalist, back in a previous life, I was in sales, business to business sales, walking down Main Street, knocking on doors, and I hated it. So you helped me kind of move past that, the bad taste that experience left in my mouth.
What did you sell then? What was that selling?
I was selling advertising.
Okay.
And the difference here is you really helped me to clarify, again, by clarifying that position in my head of what it was I had to offer. I don't feel like I'm selling anything. This isn't selling. This is looking for people to help, and offering help. It's hard to push a sale. It's easy to offer help. And that's all just a mindset change. So, and then I had confided in you too, that when I was in sales, I was great at building rapport. I'll sit and have a conversation with somebody all day. Again, I'm curious. I ask a lot of questions. I love hearing people's stories. But when it came to actually getting down to business and closing that sale, that's always been the hard part for me.
Okay. Is it closing, or is it also the transitioning from mere rapport building into just discussing business? Which one is it? Both?
I think it's really both. But yeah, that transition can be difficult because you don't want to feel inauthentic. You don't want to make the other person feel like, oh, I see, this was all just to lull me into some false sense of security, and now you're going to try and sell me something, because it's not what it is.
Yeah.
So I wanted to feel genuine and feel authentic and steer the conversation without making it feel like, okay, let's flip the switch and now we're not chatting anymore, now we're selling. So through your training, I was able to see some examples of how just to ask the right questions at the right time to kind of steer that conversation, without feeling like I was flipping a switch and just turning off rapport and turning on sales call.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, those things are, it is difficult to get that right, but you immediately feel it when you got it right, especially on LinkedIn, because there's no social cues to take, right? You would have in a normal face-to-face conversation. But so there's very few cues that you can take. One of them is that as soon as you send that message, when you're having a flowy conversation, your conversation back and forth, and then you try to kind of, okay, let's try a transition from rapport into discussing business. And then you see that the three little dots that normally indicate that they're writing, that they disappear. Okay, that tells you that, okay, you haven't managed that transition well, right? And so it's funny how you take cues from such small things. How was that for you? How many conversations have you had in this way by now?
Oh, gosh, I don't even know how many conversations I've had. I mean, I've had half a dozen conversations that have gotten to that transition point. Okay. Many more that are either still in earlier stages or that never really developed out of the rapport, where the cues I was getting from them were that they are not going to need the service that I offer, and
okay,
it just kind of faded away from there. But probably a good half a dozen or so that have gotten to this transition point.
Which is not a lot, because you only joined really recently. I mean, you joined the programs, I think, in the second half of September, and it took us a while to get to a point where you actually started doing the work, right?
Right. I think it was, let's see, today is October 27th. I think it was October 6th was the day that I started tracking my conversations.
Oh, okay, good. And so how did you get to that point of getting that first client? How did that go for you?
So that one, we were, having a conversation. I looked up his business. I Googled his business, and I didn't get any results. And so I asked him, I said, hey, I just Googled your business, and I didn't find anything. Do you not have a website? And he said, well, no, not yet. So I said, oh, not yet. So this is a new business. And he said, well, it's about a year old. I'm not good at making websites. So I kind of saw an opening for transition there in pointing out that, well, when you're a small business, you might feel like you need to do everything yourself, but you can outsource the things you're not good at, and you probably should. You'll get better results that way. And he said, well, yeah, you're right, which gave me the opening to say, well, what about your marketing? What are you doing if you don't have a website? And that led us into the conversation of, well, this is what I do. Do you want to get on a call and see if I could give you some advice and some direction.
Mhm.
So it felt very natural. It flowed very naturally from, hey, tell me about your business, to identifying, he actually self-identified where the gap was that he needed some help with.
Mhm.
So it felt very natural, and it felt, I think to him, it felt very much like his own idea. Because he was, again, self-identifying. He was saying, yeah, I have these gaps. Yeah, maybe I should outsource that. That's a good idea. Yeah, maybe I should talk to you because you have the skills I need to fill this gap.
Exactly. And this kind of natural flow, you get that sometimes, and it's usually an indicator that, yeah, this is going to turn into something. To be honest, I had exactly the same experience with you, because this is also how we started to work. I simply, started a conversation and it just flowed. I had the feeling of, yeah, this is, we're having a match here, right? So of course, not every single time this works out, not every single one becomes a client in the end,
Right.
but those are the ones where the window of opportunity is open. So I think also that, at least I did this mistake in the beginning, that I tried to fit a square peg into a round hole, where you sense this resistance from people. It's just best to kind of conclude the conversation in a nice way and not pursue it, because when it doesn't flow, it just won't work generally.
Right.
That's there's always exception to the rule, but that kind of is the rule that I've seen that works. Cool. And so then you mentioned that you were a little bit apprehensive of doing sales. So how did the sales call go?
Okay, so the first call, the discovery call, went really smoothly, very easy. I managed to schedule the longer in-depth call, and that was the one where I was going to plan to make the pitch and try and close the sale. I was really nervous about that. Again, I've done sales, but it had been a long time, and I never liked going for that close in the first place. So I expressed that in the Alpha Lead Academy group, that I had the sales call and I was excited, but I was really nervous. So you very generously offered to do a practice call with me. And that was great. You gave me some great pointers. And even aside from that, just running through it got a lot of the jitters out. Mm-hmm. And I could identify in myself things that were not going to work, even beyond the pointers that you gave me, things that, okay, I had that in my notes, but that didn't feel right. That didn't feel natural. I need to skip that or adjust that. So then when it came time for me to actually do the call, a couple hours after our practice call, I was a lot calmer. I was more comfortable, and I was able to approach it the way I wanted, which was, again, as a conversation with somebody I'm trying to help, and not as a sales call.
Awesome. Were any major obstacles during the call, or was it all smooth sailing?
I didn't experience any major obstacles. There was, when we got to the price point, there was some hesitation on his part. And I talk a lot and the close is hard for me. So I really had to grit my teeth and not say anything. And, I know that from a history in sales, that you make the pitch and then you shut up and let them work through whatever it is they need to work through. So that was a little bit of a struggle for me, but I managed to do it. And, we worked through it. In his case, I knew at that point, because of all the information he'd shared with me about his business, that it probably was a steep commitment for him to make all at once. So we agreed on breaking it up into 2 payments. Mm-hmm. That was okay with me. He suggested it, I didn't, but I agreed to it. Then he felt more comfortable and we were able to proceed from there.
Great, brilliant. So these days, how much time are you now investing into client acquisition each week, approximately?
I would guess approximately 10 hours, give or take.
Okay, good. And have since then new good leads sprung up with that method?
Yeah, I've in the last week, I've scheduled 3 new 15-minute discovery calls. At least 2 of which I feel pretty confident on. The third, I'm a little iffy on whether that's going to eventually turn into something or not. But I'm happy to find out. And I've started, I don't know how many conversations that are still in the early stages that may still develop into discovery calls.
Right. Okay, so it's steady. You get the results that you've had, and it's flowing smoothly.
It is, yeah.
Awesome. Great. So what would you say in the program had the biggest impact on you? You mentioned the sales call that we did, the practice call. Anything else that stands out that you have?
I think there's two things really. One is the very practical and step-by-step way that you lead through how to have these conversations. It's one thing to tell people, no, have a natural conversation. And it's another thing to, as you do, actually go step by step and provide sample scripts for this is what I mean by this, and this is how this could go and how the flow could go. That does a lot for confidence and comfort level. And then your analysis of my profile, my LinkedIn profile, and helping me to sharpen that. Because since we've started this and I've upped my activity level on LinkedIn, unexpectedly for me, I'm also getting way more inbound connection requests, people who are reaching out to me and asking to connect. Actually, one of the three calls I've scheduled for this week was actually an inbound where I actually had reached out to connect with him. We hadn't messaged yet. His first message to me was, hey, I looked at your profile and I think I could use your help. Would you mind scheduling some time for a call?
Amazing. Cool. Yeah, no, that is also something that I've observed. I don't know if it is real, but it almost always happens that as soon as you become really active on LinkedIn, meaning you start connecting with people, you actually have conversations, you comment on other people's content and so on, suddenly I think it means that LinkedIn is presenting your profile to more people. It's just the inbound activity also accelerates if you're doing outbound. So you just get rewarded for being active on the platform.
Yeah, it's surprising. I mean, it's not like dramatic per se, I guess, for a lot of people, but it's a dramatic increase for me. And that pretty much every day, even on the weekends, I've got 1 to 2 people reaching out to me asking to connect.
Cool. All right. Final last 2 questions. If you had to describe the Alpha Lead Academy with one word, what would it be?
That's a really tough question. I think I would say catalyzing. It's been a great catalyst for me to identify, I had my goals, but it's been a great catalyst to identify what needs to happen to achieve those goals and create some concrete steps.
Awesome. Great. And finally, what would you say to someone who is considering investing, but is a little bit on the hesitating side, doesn't know if they should come in?
I will say that even before I got this client, after that first week, and I'll see, as a solopreneur, I'm really tight-fisted with my money and hesitant to spend on things. Even before I got with the first client, just in that first week, when you helped me clarify the USP, clarify my audience, revise my profile, I literally had the thought, well, this has already been worth every penny. And I hadn't even gotten a client from that, but I just had so much clarity in the direction I needed to go and what path would take me to my goal, that alone I felt was worth the investment.
Awesome. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Dana. What should people who want to possibly work with you, where should they go and how should they contact you?
Great. I love working with solopreneurs and small businesses where you know you need marketing and you don't know how to do it. I would love to be that voice of guidance for you. I kind of picture myself as the Mr. Miyagi to your Daniel-san, right? I want to guide you in the right direction.
Amazing.
And you can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm on there under my real name, Dana Herra, or visit my website at danaherra.com.
Awesome. And you're going to make them paint the fence and do the right
stuff?
Yeah,
absolutely. Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off. Awesome. Great. Thanks so much, Dana.
All right. Thanks, Michael.